Okay, good morning everyone and welcome to first session of our boot camp, the Scrum Master boot camp. And as you can see the agenda here, the main agenda of this boot camp is to walk you through the Scrum basics and cover the 10 important questions along with the answers. And I will be seeking answers from you, and also for some of the questions I will try to help you with a couple of answers. And the art of articulation in the interview, on which your your selection majorly depends. All right, so this is the agenda for today's session. Let's look at the basics first. Look at the slide and help me understand what you see and what's your understanding. So if you see what is agile and what is Scrum, there are few examples given here. But before I start explaining, I would like to hear from people who are a part of this session to give me your understanding of what is agile and what is Scrum. Anyone wants to talk? Yes, no, maybe. We have 14 people joining. Okay. Nobody wants to say anything?
Yeah,
All right.
I would like to.
Go ahead, please. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So, as of my knowledge, Agile and what exactly is about Agile and what is a Scrum. So, Agile is a methodology that we follow to develop a software. So, like any software that we have to develop, um, uh, we have to follow a particular set of guidelines. So, why we are only following an agile is like it is an iterative and increment procedure.
Hmm.
Uh,
That's right.
so why it is iterative and increment procedure? Because in waterfall methodology, uh, e- every stage like designing, development, and it will be different, and there is no coordination between the team. But coming to agile, everyone will be coordinating and they will be working together. So it will be much helpful.
All
And
right.
Scrum is just a framework to follow
Mhm.
the agile methodology. Is what I think.
Perfect. Perfect. That's pretty much of it. Okay. So thank you so much, Tarun, for taking up this question and trying to attempt the answer for this. Appreciate it. Okay. While Tarun did give his opinion, let me also add, couple of details here. Agile and what is Scrum, what is Agile. Agile is a methodology. Please understand this. Agile is a method to develop the software. But when you develop the software, why only Agile? Why not any other method or methodology? We have waterfall model, which is still there. I'm not saying it is gone. Waterfall model is best suitable where requirements are stable. But since the requirements are changing every, you know, often now and then, every 6 months you will see new requirements coming up from the consumers on the demand that they want to see new features in the products, right? To accommodate to those changing demands, we had to have a method which will enable us to make the changes in the software development even in the middle of the phase. Now that's where the agile method came to our rescue. So it's a methodology that is based on iterative model. If you see the picture on the right side, you see the plan first, right? Once the planning is done, then the designing and development starts, and then the testing and deployment happens. If something goes wrong in the testing phase, only that piece of work is taken up for the validation and rework. The entire requirement is not taken up because you have broken the requirements into smaller chunks here. You, even if you start reworking, you will have to rework only the smaller piece of work that you have taken up, rather than reworking on the entire requirement list that was there. You don't have to really boil the ocean here. And that's the main purpose where agile started getting more momentum and more popularity. Now let me talk about what does it mean actually. What do you understand by iterative model? It's easy to look at theory and trying to see, feel that you understand it, but can we think of some examples? Let me give you the example of Paytm and PhonePe. How many of us use Paytm and PhonePe? Raise your hand if do use it. Yes, no, everybody almost, right? I don't think anybody in the group does not use the Paytm and PhonePe. Now, if you look at Paytm, it was launched or founded in the year 2010, right? And it was founded with the initial investment of $2 million, and that was by Vijay Shekhar. When Paytm was founded for the first time, it did not have the features that you see them today. Compare the list of features that Paytm had then, and after 12 years, compare the list of features the Paytm has now. It was only a wallet application or mobile application. It had only the feature that would allow us to load the money into Paytm wallet. Nothing beyond that, not even UPI. UPI was not integrated then. And I remember using Paytm back in 2011, where we had only the wallet availability with no other features. It was very limited functionality. And then the demand for additional features started coming in, and the digital mode or digital wave started in India, and people started moving towards more flexible options to make the digital payments. And there were more demands to integrate every ask in terms of functionality. Now, if you look at Paytm or PhonePe, even take the case of PhonePe. PhonePe was also founded in December 2015 by Samir Nigam. And when it was launched, it had an prototype from Paytm. Therefore, it had some features which were already a part of Paytm, right? However, comparatively, both the applications have seen tremendous increase in terms of integrations and additions of new features on their platform because there was demand from the customers. Now imagine, would Paytm be in the market if there were no additional features integrated to make the life of a customer easy? These days, every product that is being built, that needs to accommodate to the changing needs of the customer. If something cannot really meet the needs of a customer, it is heading towards failure and going to be out of market soon. And that's what exactly happened with Nokia also. So Agile basically helps you to make the frequent changes to your product by making smaller adjustments without having to deal with bigger list of requirements. That's the main intent of Agile here. It accommodates you to make the changes and deploy them and integrate them. If something does not feel right, remove it and upgrade it with better features. And during the development phase, before something comes out to the production or as a live product, it can allow so many changes by breaking the entire list of requirements into smaller pieces. All right. Now, what is Agile? Agile is a method, and Scrum is a framework under Agile methodology. All right. Now, let's look at what is Scrum framework. What does it mean? Let me mute people, whoever is not talking. All right. Now, Scrum basics, if you look at Agile umbrella here, you have multiple frameworks to implement Agile methodology. It's not the Scrum alone. You have XP, you have CI/CD pipelines, you have FDD, TDD, and if you have bigger teams, and the number of teams is more than one, you have the large scale Scrum, you have SAFe, you have disciplined Agile delivery, and other frameworks. But now we are going to talk about only Scrum because Scrum is the foundation of everything. Even if you're practicing a scaled agile framework, still you would need this foundational knowledge to get there. And it is not very different from what we're going to discuss here. All right. So agile talks about the methodology to implement or accommodate the changes, and agile is a methodology. Now under methodology of agile, you have Scrum Framework. Under the Scrum Framework, you have important roles to be played. And if you are a part of Scrum team, Scrum Framework recommends only 3 roles. Can you see the roles above? Product owner, and product owner brings the requirements to the team, what all the team needs to work on. Scrum Master encourages the team to follow the Scrum practices, and he helps the team to remove the impediments or blockers if there are any in the path of delivery of the product. And development team is nothing but the developers that are a part of Scrum team, and these people are a combination of QA engineers and the senior software engineers and associate software engineers. These people primarily work on building the requirements into functionalities. It could be any type of requirement. It could be simple a gateway of payment also. Any requirement that is going to be converted into functionality, that is going to be made possible only by development team. And there are no other roles apart from 3 roles in Scrum team. It is very simple framework. And now, what do these 3 roles cater to the Scrum Framework implementation, and how exactly this sprint is executed? If you look at the image below here, you have Scrum ceremonies, right? We call it as Scrum events now. We do not call them as Scrum ceremonies anymore. The first ceremony is sprint planning. Your sprint is basically the time boxed for 2 to 4 weeks, and most popular cadence that is used widely is 10 days cadence for the sprint. Sprint is basically the duration within which you plan your work. It's a cadence within which you plan your work to be delivered. Now, what do you do in sprint planning? You will look at the velocity of your team, right? And you will look at the capacity of your team, and then you pick up the items that are from the backlog, from the sprint backlog. Do you see the sprint backlog here? Yes. The product backlog you see here. Then all the items from the product backlog are refined and made ready to be a part of sprint backlog. And during the sprint planning, you will create sprint backlog here. And in sprint backlog, you will identify the items to be executed and delivered as an increment when sprint ends. Therefore, sprint planning is the first meeting that takes place in the Scrum framework. And after the sprint planning is done, you will start the sprint. And it happens on the first day of the sprint. Please remember this. This can be an interview question. When does your sprint planning take place? Ideally, it should be happening on the first day of the sprint. All right. Then, if you have 10 days cadence in your sprint, you have the daily stand-up. And daily stand-up is one of the important meeting in the Scrum framework, and that is going to be time boxed for 15 minutes, where you will be asking 3 important questions. What did the team do yesterday, and what is it is going to do today, and what are the blockers? And with the help of these 3 questions, you will get the updates from the team members or the team. Then comes the review meeting. After your sprint is done, either on the after a couple of days of your sprint completion, you will do the review meeting, which is a part of next which is a part of schedule, which is in next sprint. Let's say your sprint is completed. Your sprint is completed on let's say, for example, on 10th of October, and you have the sprint review for completed sprint on 12th of October. right? This schedule is pre-published and this is decided after the meetings with the stakeholders. And then on the final day of your sprint, you will do the retrospective meeting. What is a sprint cadence here? It is 10 days, right? On 10th day, you will be doing retrospective meeting. In the retrospective meeting, you will identify what the best practices we followed in the sprint and what we can improve and what we did not follow. Basically, these three questions you will be asking. Now coming to the next part of it, artifacts. You have three artifacts: product backlog, sprint backlog, and increment. Increment is extremely important because this is the outcome of your sprint. All right. Now, if you want to discuss little more about framework, your your sprint cadence is always spread between 1 to 4 weeks, and very popular cadence is 2 weeks. In the interview also, this question will definitely come, right? And you do not have more than 3 roles, only 3 roles are there. And all your sprint backlog item is broken down into tasks and they are executed. And all your stories are nothing but they form the backlog. Backlog is nothing but list of user stories that are going to be executed in the sprint to create a increment. All right, your increment is basically the finished work. If somebody is working on a functionality to build a payment gateway, if your payment gateway functionality is ready, then that's an increment for your sprint. All right. Now moving on to the next. This is the Jira glimpse of few reports that we publish as a part of Scrum team. You will have to, as a Scrum Master, you will have to publish the reports to your stakeholders on a regular basis after every sprint is over. And when you look at Jira, this is how your sprint backlog and active sprint looks like. Here you have the backlog, the list of items, right? This is how your user stories are written and listed down on the priority, and this is done by your PO. All right, and then you have the active sprint here. Do you see the sprint? Sprint 1 is created, and you have the cadence also from 19th May to June 2. And this cadence is always visible on the active sprint tab. And what do you see? What do you actually look at when you see the active sprint? You will have three phases of a story. Once the story is in to do, it means it is sitting in the backlog. This is typically a Kanban view. And then you move the stories when you start working on them in progress. Once the story is completed, you move the story into done status. These are the three different stages of a story. Now coming back to sprint burn down charts. Here I have tried to simplify the explanation by writing some points here. If your sprint is starting at 50 story points, or let's say you have taken or loaded the sprint with 50 story points, you start your first day here, right? As and when you start burning the story points, as and when you start moving the items, okay, from here to here and here to here, your burn down chart keeps dipping. And this flat chart indicates that there was no work completed between this period. And each dip talks about the completed work. And it shows, this line shows the remaining amount of work. And that's how you get to see how much work is pending when you look at the burn down chart in the middle of the sprint. All right. Now, I hope this is clear. Any questions? I would like to take a pause and take a couple of questions before we move to the next segment. All right.
Sir, I have one question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, actually, we are talking about sprint reviews, right?
Mhm.
Here we are doing the sprint reviews for the completed sprints, right?
Correct. That's right.
Then what is the use of doing reviews after the sprint is completed?
Okay. The main purpose of the review is to demonstrate the amount of increment that you have created, or
Okay.
the functionality that you have built to the
Okay.
stakeholders. You have to
Understood.
demonstrate the work completed to the stakeholders.
Okay, just
Now,
we are showing how much velocity and how much capacity we have
no.
burnt in the reviews.
You will not talk about velocity and capacity. It is only
Okay.
the value that you have created. Let's say you have completed, you worked on one of the mobile application that helps you track your heart rate, for example.
Okay.
Now, when that mobile application is integrated with Fitbit watch, okay, by looking
Okay.
at your pulse, if it can calculate your heart rate, whether that functionality is working properly or not, you will demonstrate to the stakeholders. Your stakeholders will not be worried about your capacity and velocity. They want to see what work did you finish, what is the functionality that you have built. For example, you have worked on a functionality which is on banking application, right? Now, one of the functionalities, just it could be a simple tab which gives you the balance, okay, which shows you the balance without logging into the account. Just a simple tab. Now, if you have built your application and that functionality into your application, demonstrate the same to the stakeholders. And now stakeholders will review the item and they will try to give you the feedback. Hey, you have developed it into, in this fashion. Is it possible for us to, tweak it, make it in this way? They can give you with the feedback. And the main intent of a review meeting is to seek the feedback from the stakeholders. If they are happy, they will not give the feedback. If they want to see something more, and that more work can be taken up in the upcoming sprints and it can be integrated later.
Yeah, but whatever we are showing and demonstrating in the sprint review, that is but that is the main part of the description of the user story only, right? That is given by the stakeholders only earlier.
Correct.
Again,
But
if they do the changes, mean that is a rework only, right?
no, it's not. See, here the point is whether it is a rework or not, that is taken up secondary. Okay, that is secondary question. But
Okay.
if the changes are coming from the stakeholders, it could be because of the business requirements. If the business requirements is seeking a change, you have to change it. Otherwise,
That's fine. Yes,
your
understood.
application will not survive in the market. As simple as that.
Okay.
All right.
Got it.
Yeah, that was a good question, by the way. Any other questions on basics? Yes, no. I want to just reload the basics page. If somebody has any questions, feel free to ask me. This is your session, and this entire session is for you guys, not for me or not for somebody who is already experienced. Yes, Mano.
Yeah, no question.
No questions. Very good. Okay, all right. Then we will move to the next part of the session, which is something which is eagerly awaited. Yes.
Yeah, you had said about Scrum artifacts, right? From there, there is a product increment you have said, right? So, what is product increment?
Product
The work.
increment is the outcome of the sprint. Okay, the functionality that you have developed. Let's say, for example, let me talk about Ola. How many of you use Ola application? Yes, no?
Yes.
All of us, right? Yeah. Now, tell me, how many of you know there is a chatting capability within the Ola application with the driver? You can chat with the driver. You can ask where he is. Now, was this functionality, a part of Ola application a couple of years back?
No.
It was not there.
Yes.
Now, somebody gave the feedback. We don't want to call that guy. We want to just chat within the application. And Ola worked on it and built the functionality. That is your product increment.
Okay.
Okay.
So the product outcome.
Yes, product outcome and sprint outcome. It is not product outcome. It is sprint outcome and product increment. And product increment is basically enhancement of your product by adding a new functionality that makes the life of a user easy. And that's how you deliver the value. All right.
Okay.
Moving on to top 10 questions. Here we go. I'm sure many of you are waiting for this list of questions, and I would like to discuss one by one. How many of you are attending the interviews right now? I mean, in this phase, most of you,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, yes.
Now, did you get these questions in your interviews? Yes, no. Yes, guys, this is your session
Yes.
again. I'm telling you.
Yeah, we
You
have
have to
faced
talk,
these questions.
right? These
Yeah.
questions. Now let's discuss about each question in detail. What do you do as a Scrum Master? This is going to be a must question in the interview. You will not have any interview happening without this question. What do you do as a Scrum Master? Can anybody try to address this question? Who wants to go? Yes,
Like,
no?
as a Scrum Master, we can I'll be facilitating the sprint events like sprint review, daily scrum, sprint retrospective, sprint planning meeting, and also like working closely with product owner for product backlog refinement, and also working on Scrum metrics like burn-down chart, velocity, and capacity, and also removing impediments,
Very good.
and tracking the developers whether they are filling their
Hours or not?
hours in Jira.
All right, all right, all right. That's good. That's a good attempt, Mano. Anybody else who wants to give it a shot? And I think Mano, you have pretty much summed it in detail, and I would like to hear one more answer, and then I would like to give you my version of explanation. Okay, all right. So when you face this question, do not use the word facilitating. Okay, let's avoid that word. Replace it with you taking care of Scrum activities, end-to-end Scrum activities. That should be your beginning, because people often think the job of a Scrum Master is just playing the role of a facilitator, but that's not it. You do much more work than just being a facilitator, right? So as a Scrum Master, I take care of end-to-end Scrum activities from sprint planning till sprint retrospective. Then I make sure issues reported on a day-to-day basis are addressed by talking to required teams. It could be a dependency team or it could be a vendor team. And I talk to product owner in terms of getting the refinement properly done to make the necessary arrangements for the next coming sprints. And I will also talk to my team members if they have any individual impediments in the team. Right? So your explanation has to start in this fashion. Then you can build the supportive statements in terms of how exactly you want to stop and end it. And you can also take care of explanation around my as a Scrum Master. I also take care of impediments that are getting reported on day-to-day basis. If there is a test data requirement, you talk to test data dependency team and have the test data readiness available before the validation work starts in the sprint. And it could be a vendor feed file, or it could be a vendor data that needs to come before your work starts. And talk to the vendor, get the necessary calls arranged, and have the data available so that your sprint items don't get spilled over. So you have to explain in this fashion to avoid any confusion, because this gives you the proper sequence. And what Mano explained was very well. Just replace it with taking care of Scrum events rather than just facilitating it. Okay, Mano?
Yeah,
How do
sure.
you monitor the progress of your sprint? All right. Moving on to the next question. How do you monitor the progress of your sprint? This is a must question in the
Burn
interview.
down chat.
By burn down chart.
Okay. So how do you explain that? Do you want to just say by burn down chat? That's where your answer ends. How do you want to articulate that?
Here I will conduct the daily stand-up. Based on the daily stand-ups, we'll come to know the actual progress of the sprint day to day.
Very
And
good.
based on that, how much velocity we have burnt and how much capacity we have utilized. And any impediments are there and any roadblocks are there, we need to clear that roadblocks, and we'll make sure that the sprint is under progress based on the deadlines given. In this way, I need to check the day-to-day progress of the sprint.
Absolutely. That was spot on answer. Very well done. Okay, Hanvika, right? Was that Hanvika?
Actually, that's my daughter's name.
Okay,
My name is Ranjit.
Ranjit. Okay, Ranjit. Very well, very well, addressed on this question. Now, anybody else who wants to try? Because it does not, your explanation is the key here. If you want to play the role of a Scrum Master, more you articulate in better way, the more chances are there for your selection. How do you monitor the progress of your sprint? I monitor the progress of a sprint in two ways. One is the daily stand-up. In my daily stand-up, I always get the updates in terms of what the team has done yesterday, what the team is doing today, and what are the blockers. Based on that, I will be able to see the progress made in the sprint. And apart from daily stand-up, my Jira board also gives me the status of the progress when I look at the Jira board. These are the two ways I look at or two approaches I take to monitor the progress of the sprint. As simple as that. And of course, what Ranjit said was pretty good. Right? Everybody has a different style of explanation. As long as your style of explanation is not deviating from what is needed as a part of answer, you are doing your best. All right. Now moving on to the next. What is your team structure and technology stack? This is also one of the basic question, and it is mandatorily asked in most of the interviews. I'm sure you would have already faced it. Yes, anybody wants to answer this question? Yes, no? Nobody? Okay, let me give you the answer. You should always talk about your team composition. How many testers are there, and how many developers are there, and what is the technology stack? Do you have full stack developers? Do you have Java developers? Do you have Angular developers? Do you have JS React developers? Right? You talk about your team structure in terms of, just break down your team. If you have 10 people, how many of them are, QAs, and how many of them are the developers? Then add, PO and SM. Let's say if you say 11 people, you can say always, I have 3 QAs, 6 developers, and PO and myself. We are a team of 11 people. And technology stack, talk about the technology that your team is, holding. So what are the skill sets your team is holding for each member? Just talk about that. All right. Any questions on this question? Nobody has any question?
We can also tell the velocity of the team set, whatever we are handling.
No, velocity is not needed. Team structure. Question is team structure. It is nowhere related to velocity.
Okay, just we need to explain the team size
structure.
and their
okay. Correct. So how many developers are there and how many QA members are there?
Okay.
Okay, that's all. Okay. Nothing more than that.
Okay.
People have different variations of team structure, but stick to this.
Got it. Okay.
All right.
Like, can we say in this manner, like we have like total 9 people, including Scrum Master and product owner, and we have like 4 developers and 2 testers and 1 architect.
You can say that. There is no hard, rule not to say that. You can say that also. And but you have to break your composition of the team. Okay. People are interested to understand the structure in terms of composition. What is your size of development? What is your development team size? What is your QA team size? Do you have a tech lead or do you have an architect? Architects generally, they work at program level. They don't work at team level. So it's better you have it's better to say you have a tech lead rather than an architect.
Okay, tech lead or business lead?
Yes, not the business lead, tech lead. Your development team should always have a tech lead, or a tech lead role can be played by the senior developer also, if somebody is more experienced.
Okay, fine.
Because he is the one who knows the technology well, and he can guide the people in the team.
Okay, fine.
All right. Yes. Next question is, what is velocity and how does it help you plan your work? Yes. Anybody wants to try?
With the help of velocity, we can track the work for between the sprint to sprint. And can I say like we are burning 40 story points per sprint?
But look at the question here. Question is little tricky. You have to first define what is velocity.
Okay.
Right. You are getting into addressing how it helps your team.
Velocity in the mean like we can track the work of our team sprint to sprint.
Correct. Then how will you calculate the velocity? You have to define that, right?
So with the help of burn down chart, can we say that?
Okay. How? With the help of burn down.
The velocity of the team can be calculated by the previous sprints.
Okay. We can calculate by previous sprints, but what is the calculation? How do you calculate
the total story points of the team? Particular sprint. What we have used for each sprint, with the average we can take by.
Exactly. This is how you have to explain. Your explanation should consist of this, details. Velocity is the total number of story points burned in last few sprints, but by the number of divided by the number of sprints. And for the calculation of velocity, I take minimum 6 sprints or 5 sprints or 7 sprints or 4 sprints.
Average velocity.
Okay, so you will arrive at the total. Let's say you have 300 story points burned in last few 5 sprints, divided by the number of by 5, and you will get the average. That becomes your velocity. And how does it help you plan your work? It helps me plan my work by keeping in mind how much my team can deliver and how much load I can bring on the team's sprint for that particular upcoming sprint. It helps me not deviate by loading the extra work for the team, or by not loading the sufficient work for the team. You cannot make your team work under the capacity or over the capacity, right? Velocity gives you the enough data to plan the work on the table or for your team's sprint. All right. So if your velocity is 50 or 55 story points, you cannot go with 80 story points of sprint. That's a huge deviation from your velocity. And tomorrow there will be a question: if your velocity was at 55, why did you commit 80 story points in your sprint? This is how you have to explain with examples if needed. All right. Coming to the 5th question: what estimation techniques do you use in the team to perform the estimations?
Planning poker for story point estimation. We use planning poker for story point estimation.
Okay, planning
and for
poker,
estimation we use t-shirt
sizing. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, what else?
Version 3. Sorry.
Okay, so there are different techniques. One of the technique is planning poker, and other one is disaggregation of stories, and you have estimation by analog, which is of the reference for the previous pre-completed sprints. So best way to explain is, there are different techniques out there, but one of the best technique that I use is planning poker, because planning poker is one of the popular method or the approach taken for estimations, because it gives you the clarity in terms of what each member in the team is thinking or understanding the story, and how deeply the story is understood. what is their level of maturity in terms of delivering the work. If somebody is estimating the story at 5 story points, somebody else might be estimating the same story at 8 or 13 story points, right? Through planning poker, you will conduct the meeting, and you will reach the consensus, and only then you will freeze the estimation on a particular story. And it helps me to perform the better estimations because everybody's input is taken into account. It's not like somebody is saying 5 story points and we are going with that. And just because some older data is speaking about 8 story points, we need not take 8 story points. You understand the story currently as it is and ask the team to share the inputs. All right. So your explanation should be around this when you talk about estimations. And what we do not use multiple techniques to estimate. Remember, any one of the technique you will follow. Either you follow the disaggregation technique or analog technique or t-shirt sizing or planning poker. Do not explain saying that I follow all the techniques. That's not how one does it. All right.
Every sprint we are following only one technique, like from start to end.
There is no such rule.
Oh.
There is no such rule. You can plan different techniques for different sprints,
Sprint,
but
okay.
only one technique for one sprint.
For one sprint, okay.
Yeah, because if you are doing it for the first time, it is better to plan the planning poker. If you are using it for the second and third sprint, it's better to plan the disaggregation. Means you break the entire stories into smaller pieces, and that's how even planning poker actually helps you break down the stories into smaller chunks and try to estimate them, or make the reference to the previous data. Okay, I had a similar story in my couple of previous sprints. I have the same story almost. Can I use the same estimate as I did it in the last time or in the last sprint? Okay, you can reference back to the old data. How do you manage the resistance in the team? Yes. Have you seen this question in the interview? If you did, what did you answer?
Yeah, here I'll manage the resistance of the team by taking one-on-one sessions regularly, and I will take the concerns what they are facing, and conducting and engaging them, even if they are in distributed locations also. I will keep on engaging with them, not only with the regular work, even for the regular questions and generalized questions also we will be taking care. And if any KT sessions are there, we will be conducting that so that they will be more enough to do the work based on the productivity and the domain knowledge. In this way, I'll use to manage the resistance of the team.
All right. Okay. That was a good attempt. Let's try a different answer then.
Sure.
Okay. Anybody else who wants to try it differently? You have actually given 80 to 90% of the correct answer. I'm not denying that, but you cannot get into direct solution mode. First, you talk about what is the resistance about. Okay. Is it regarding the meeting, or is it regarding the solution? Is it regarding the approach, or is it regarding the meeting timelines, or is it about your style, or what is the resistance about? Somebody does not like you, somebody does not like somebody in the team. So before I get to manage the resistance, I need to study what is the resistance about and where it is coming from. Okay, accordingly, I will keep the data ready. Let's say if somebody says they don't want to attend the daily stand-up because every day in my daily stand-up I am giving the same status. There is a resistance from one person who is not willing to attend the daily stand-up because he thinks it's a waste of time. Rather, he thinks I would rather invest my time on working on the development. Then how do you tackle that resistance? You spoke about one-to-one, right? But what will you discuss in one-to-one? Speak about that also. What questions you will bring on the table? Okay, now you're saying that you don't want to attend the interview. You don't want to attend the daily stand-up. What do you think is the impact going to be like on the team? Do you guarantee that others will not follow your habit? Okay, now Gopal, I'm just taking the example. Now Gopal is not attending the daily stand-up. Can we also get same excuse? If somebody comes up, what do you think I should do as a Scrum Master, and how do you think you can help me here? Bring back the questions to that person. You're getting my point now? So you
Yeah.
have to study the resistance, accordingly build your approach towards solving that resistance. And resistance could be anything. If somebody is not liking the frequent changes, okay, and if somebody is not liking the solution approach, if somebody is thinking uh, as per the architect there is a certain solution, but just because it takes a longer path, your team is looking for the shortcut. Okay, now do you want to really build something through a shortcut, again face the issues, or do you want to permanently fix something with permanent solution? Bring the data points. Resistance should be dealt with sufficient data points and right questions, guys. It cannot be dealt with simple generic explanation. All right, in the interview also talk about examples, talk about what type of resistance you had and how it was identified or it was managed. Let's say for example, you have in one of the sprint you have completely testing effort, you have only testing work, there is no development work, and development team members were not willing to take up the testing work, because instead of doing the work on development part, they had to spend time on learning the testing and validation. How did you convince your team? Of course there is a resistance, but what approach did you take? So you have to explain in that fashion. All right, any questions on this question? Moving on to the next one. Can you mention any two impediments you have removed for the team? This is going to be extremely important interview question.
So scope creep is not discussed. 7th point.
Okay, sorry, my bad. I missed it. Ice play tricks, right? Okay, moving back to the 7th one. What is scope creep and how do you prevent it? Scope creep is basically the requirements which were not clear in the beginning, and suddenly in the middle of the sprint you have the clarity on those requirements. Suddenly your PO or your business people want you to start working on new work without adding any additional capacity. Means either you have to manage the work somehow by pushing the team to work more, or you have to end up taking a toll on the quality of the work that is getting delivered. So scope creep, you should always try to prevent it by making the arrangements for regular and effective refinement sessions. If your PO is not doing enough refinement, talk to the PO. Tell them at least 2 weeks work should be ready. That will avoid the scope creep. Let's say for example you are currently working on one of the sprint, and if the sprint that is going to start next after this sprint does not have the enough work, there is every possibility that there will be a scope creep. And as a Scrum Master, you should chase your PO to have the enough work arranged, or all the requirements listed and discussed and debated and clarified to the team, so that everybody is clear on what needs to be done, not only from the Scrum team but also from the stakeholders side. Whatever requirements are there, you have to drive the discussions, be it with the vendor team or be it with the client team. Discuss the requirements, gain the clarity, and make it ready. That is a sure shot way to avoid scope creep. All right, moving on to the next one. Can you mention any two impediments you have removed for the team? Anybody wants to try to address this question? Yes. Nobody wants to try? Why is this group so silent? All right. Impediments can be anything. It could be a simple acceptance on some resistance by your team, and you have removed it. A resistance can also be one of the impediment. If somebody is not willing to do the testing, where you need an additional tester and one of your development team member knows how to do the validation, and if he is not willing, that resistance can be an impediment. If test data is not available to complete the validation, that can be an impediment. If the lower environment is not stable to do the testing, that could be an impediment, right? So if there is a commitment given by the dependency team, and dependency team is not delivering the dependency as committed by the date, that could be an impediment. So you can take example of any two challenges that you addressed and that helped your team to move forward without any hassle, right? It could be simple communication through your email also, right? When you try to work on removing impediments, you don't remove the impediments. Basically, you always facilitate or make the necessary arrangements to have the right conversations between the right teams, and that's how you remove the impediments, right? What reports do you publish regularly? This is again an interview question. What reports do you publish regularly? Yes.
Sprint
Anybody
burndown,
wants to?
sprint burn up, velocity chart.
Mhm. Sprint burn down, velocity chart, commitment reliability, even the sprint report. You can talk about the quality reports like Blue Optima, right? The aberrancy reports. Those are high level topics which we will not discuss here, but you can talk about commitment reliability report, velocity, and burn down and burn up chart. Okay, together in the sprint report you can publish all the data into one email. Okay, I will only publish this sprint report, and my sprint report consists of these data points. And when you talk about sprint report, you're talking about various reports within the sprint. How many story points were taken up and how many were delivered? Okay, and how did you manage the velocity? Did you meet the velocity, and did you deliver the committed story points, or did you spill over anything? So all those you will put in one report and you will publish it. You can say that, or you can talk about publishing various different reports. All right. Coming to how do you track and manage dependencies? How many of you have heard about a plugin on Jira called Jira Align? Yes, no.
No, I haven't heard about it.
Okay, there is a tool called Jira Align that actually helps you track your dependencies by raising a dependency on the name of a dependency team. Let's say, for example, there is an ABCD team on which you are dependent for the test data, and your development work is supposed to be completed by sixth day of your of your sprint. By seventh day, you need the test data to be set up in the lower region. And now, when you raise the dependency, you have to get the commitment from the dependency team by the date that you have asked for. Then you can start the work. Otherwise, dependencies uncommitted can become risks. And before you start your sprint, you should raise the dependencies in advance and get the commitment taken from the dependency teams. And how do you track? You track it through Jira Align, and you manage it by having the regular conversations with the dependency teams. By tracking the every alternate day, you can drop a status email seeking the status on the dependencies. All right. So this brings us to the end of all the 10 questions. And now we will get to the articulation part. Before that, let me take a pause and let's look at some questions if there are any. Okay. All right.
Ram, one question here, Ram.
Yeah, go ahead.
Actually, these questions are much helpful to me. Recently, I have faced one of the questions is
Mhm.
the interviewer asking like uh, regarding the development. I mean, what kind of technology you have used, what kind of if you are not from that background, and I mean, how do you justify about the
Okay, you
development in the
have to first study a little bit about the projects that you have supported. Okay, if you're not from the background of technology, then you can I'm not sure if you have sufficiently prepared with the proper training. If you're trained sufficiently, your training should take care of this answer. Okay, maybe you might want to talk about Java. Maybe you might want to talk about backend technology, big data, or maybe React JS, Angular, any front end technology, or maybe mobile development you can talk about. So you have to sync your explanation by talking about the project and the product you are building and the supporting technology. Okay, Tarun. So both should match. If you are
yeah, yeah.
talking about mobile application development, you cannot avoid and talking about Android and iOS development. You have to mention them. Okay, let's do one thing. You can connect with me separately, Tarun. I will help you separately on that. All right.
Yeah, sure, sure, sure.
All right. Moving on to the next topic. What's your big question here?
Actually, I have one follow-up question with the previous one, whatever this guy asked. So what if like you said about like explanation about the technology? Like, do we have to explain specifically about the technology, or we can even give an explanation about the project? Let's consider as a Scrum Master, we'll be working on, like, we'll be facilitating on different projects. We'll be working with different teams. So that teams might be developing different kind of projects. Like what interviewer is asking, like explain about the technology, where we can try to twist the question, and instead of explaining about the technology, we can explain about the kind of project that we have been developing. Will that work?
No, no, no. It will not work.
It
So
will not.
it will not work. The interviewers are not dumb people.
Hmm?
Okay. If he is asking about ABCD, you cannot explain XYZ. Okay.
Mhm.
Give me a minute, guys. Give me a minute. Yeah. So let's say if you're I'm sorry. If if your team is working on certain project, as a Scrum Master, you will always maintain the skill metrics, like what skills you have in the team. Okay, how many React Native developers you have, how many Android developers you have, how many web developers you have. So this list will be there with you. You have to talk on those lines. You cannot skip that and make the answer something else.
No, that's okay. But like being a Scrum Master, you can just explain. Might be you can explain about the list of technologies that are being used in the project, or
Okay, you want me to cover that here, Jit?
no, 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 no. And apart from that, I have a few more questions. Like whatever the 10 questions that we have discussed, those are really good. But I have been going through a couple of interview videos, and those people are much they're discussing about like majorly questions are on scenario based, but many people are asking like there are many techniques like prioritization techniques we have. Some people about Moscow techniques,
Masco technique.
and do like will do, sure do, must do, and there are different kind of differentiation and delighters kind of techniques. They're talking a lot of things. I have a doubt that whatever the entire thing that has been covered, it depends on the level of experience that are
True, true.
possess, right?
That's true.
That's true, right? So it's like whatever I'm talking. So for these kind of questions, like what exactly the level of experience that a person should have so that he can face this kind of question.
See, it's not about level of experience. Okay, you can be more experienced, still you may end up giving the wrong answer.
Okay.
Okay, it's your expertise and exposure.
Okay. Okay. Sure.
Okay, so that actually makes the difference. So how well are you equipped with the right explanation to the question that is coming your way?
Okay.
So there can be an extremely good, Scrum Master, but in one of the situational based question, which is tricky, he might go clueless because he never faced that, in his entire experience, he never faced a situation. Right. And for some of the answers, if you don't know, it is okay to be honest. Say, I don't know because I never encountered this situation. Don't try to attempt everything that you are not sure of, because you will come across as a person who is not honest.
Okay. Okay. And
Okay.
one last question that I do have. Uh, so I don't know whether this is correct to ask or not, but what if like a person is having just 3 years of experience as a Scrum Master? So it's like
that's fine. 2 to 3 years experience as a Scrum Master is not a bad experience to have.
So it's like
okay, you can.
So in that case, I don't know how exactly I have to put this question out, but
let's discuss this offline, Jeet. You seem to have many questions.
Sure.
Okay, I'll be happy to discuss. You can drop a WhatsApp message today and tomorrow. Anyway, I'm having some free, breathing space. I can catch up with you.
Definitely.
All
Thanks a
right.
lot. Yeah, thank you.
All right, Jeet. Yeah. Okay, your big question, guys. Now, how many of you think you have this question? Do you want to know what is your big question? Many of you think, I am not from a technical background. Will I be able to really, make it to this role? And your big question is this. How many of you agree with this? Yes, no?
I do personally.
No, no. I
No,
think
your answer is no. But do you agree? Are you in agreement with me when I say you did have this question to yourself if you were not from a technical background?
Yeah.
Yes,
Actually, Scrum Master, no need to have technical skills. But the thing is, even in interviews in Naukris and all, they are asking for technical Scrum Masters. I have seen so many such role types in different companies.
We will deal with those questions later.
Nowadays,
But those are
asking for the
Currently
development
not needed. Actually,
background.
as part of the Scrum Master, it is not needed.
That's very true. That's very
yes,
true.
yes, yes.
So the answer to this question is no. Okay, you do not need the technical skills to play the role of a Scrum Master, because most of your responsibilities are aligned in terms of managing the sprint, talking to stakeholders, driving those conversations, facilitating the various Scrum events, right? Where do you have the opportunity to implement your technical skills to execute something or to design some solution? Your team members will do that for you. If you get involved too much into technical things, then you are deviating from the role of a Scrum Master. And again, as you change your job, your technical composition of your team will also change. Let's say as a Scrum Master in my first job, I might work managing a team of mobile development. In my next job, maybe I will get the team that is completely on SAP. And in my third job, maybe I will get a team that is completely on AWS. How do I manage that? You're getting my point? So your skills, your technical skills, to some extent, they will be limited. Even if you are, I am a SAP developer. I worked as a FICO consultant before getting into this role, but I don't get a team to manage the SAP projects. My team has a different skill set. My SAP knowledge is not helpful at all to them, right? Therefore, industry might seek technical Scrum Masters, because the openings for particular projects will need only the technical people, and it is very rare for them also to find someone. Let's say for example, .NET skill is needed for a Scrum Master. Now, how many .NET developers would be there who would like to get into the role of a Scrum Master? So there will be a huge supply and demand challenge for even industry seekers, and therefore this is not a mandate. as long as you understand the context of the technology, how it is being built, and how the different pieces move together, you are good. Just try to understand what is the technology, how the things flow from different directions. That's all you need. You don't need the technical skills to get into the coding. All right. And this should give you enough confidence now to think why you should try to get into the role of a scrum master, if you think you are a good communicator and a good team player. All right. Can we move to the next one? Art of articulation. Now look at this art of articulation. Many people think I will try to explain whatever I think comes best in my mind. But you should always keep in mind the articulation that you're trying to bring to your language should express your ideas very clearly and in a very concise manner. Okay, you should choose the right words so that you can give enough clarity to the other person on your thoughts. You might think of people who speak without arranging the proper words, and think of people who speak effectively and the impact that they create on others. In the interview also, there is a rule called 90-second rule. Let me tell you this 90-second rule. Okay, what is this rule? You want to just talk about it? 90-second rule. Anybody wants to attempt? Your 90-second rule basically talks about how well can you present yourself in the first 1 to 2 minutes, or 1 to 1.5, which is 1.5 minute, which is 90 seconds. So that's the phase during which, when you start talking about your introduction and giving answers to a couple of first questions, interviewer will make a mindset. Okay, I want to select this guy. I want to select this person, or I don't want to select this person. I don't want to, go ahead with this anymore. You will see the difference. So you should take care of your explanation in the beginning very carefully. Therefore, your articulation plays extremely crucial role to make an impact on the interviewer. Okay, why you should be articulate? Because these are the benefits you have. It avoids miscommunication. It makes your thoughts easy for interviewer to understand, and it opens new opportunities for you. And the other benefits are listed here. And how exactly you can become more articulate? Make a practice of keeping a notepad and pen and the dictionary. Every time you come across a new word, try to see how much commonality is there. Let's say, for example, the word big can be replaced with huge, immense, more, right? The choice of words actually speaks about the volumes of experience we carry. Even if you don't carry the enough experience, it can talk about your knowledge and expertise, right? So it's better you start working on this segment also, because I have seen people uh, struggling to give the right explanation, but they have the right knowledge. They have the stuff. They have understood the entire framework of Scrum, Agile, and everything. But when it comes to explanation, they are jumbling up everything. And that does not give enough clarity to the interviewer to make a decision whether or not he should go ahead with the selection. You may not know some things, but still, whatever you know, can you capitalize your explanation or your uh, interview opportunity on what you know? So you have to think in these lines and have the patience, have the patience and start thinking little slowly during the interview process. Your articulation plays key role when you slow down your thinking process, because when you think too fast, You are thinking too many things, and you may leave out some parts of uh, uh, keywords when you explain. So your explanation, your thinking should move in sync, and this takes little practice. And therefore I would suggest you should always practice by recording your explanation on your mobile recorder and play it back to yourself, and see how many mistakes you will come across, how many filler words, how many jargons that you use, which you may feel I should have avoided that later when you listen to them. All right. So this is very crucial, and this is a make or break thing in the interview. This does not talk about the knowledge of Scrum or anything, but it is purely your style you use in giving your interview. All right. So this brings us to the almost end of this session, and before I conclude this session, I would like to let you know about couple of trainings that I offer as a Scrum Master trainer. I have two training programs. One training program is boot camp training, in which I will there is no start and end date for this. Your start date is from the day you register. Let's say if somebody is registering today, your bootcamp validity starts now, and it will be there for 3 months, and you will be given access to my pre-recorded training sessions, which will contain all the in detail concepts of Scrum Agile, to make you ready for the Scrum Master role. And this will be self-paced learning. Once you complete your watching of videos, then you will also have the opportunity to attend my Thursday sessions, which generally starts at 10 p.m. at night on Thursdays. All right. So you will also benefit from live sessions and pre-recorded sessions. And after you are done with watching of all the videos, I will be taking one mock session for you. And in parallel, we will be working on your CV to get started with the interview process. All right. And this is my boot camp. Coming to the second training program that I have, that's about complete end-to-end practical training, which is for 1 month, where I will be covering daily sessions from morning 6:15 to 7:15. And in this training, I will be walking you first 8 to 10 days. It will be foundational theory walkthrough. And for the rest of the days, we will be working on complete interviews through mock sessions, which means I will put you through a complete experience of a real-time interview. And every day, once we start the mock sessions, we will not do more than 2 mock sessions. For 30 to 40 minutes, you will undergo mock sessions along with the feedback, and also the Jira sessions and sprint ceremony simulations also we will be covering. And once you complete end-to-end training with me, you will also be associated with me uh, even after you become a Scrum Master. And every Saturday, if you look at here, every Saturday I will be, today morning also I completed a support session just in the morning. Every Saturday I will be doing one support session, which gives you the opportunity to bring all your interview related questions to discuss with me and get the answers for them. After the training, you when you start facing the interviews, you will definitely have some questions for which you may not feel you gave the right answers. So you can bring those questions, and this support mechanism will continue. So if you are a part of my trainings, you will be associated with me even after the trainings are done. It does not, our association does not end with the training schedule. All right. So this is about my trainings, and you can also visit my YouTube channel, which I have created recently, and on which I will be uploading my schedules, and also my upcoming training details and some of the short videos. But I'm not very actively working on YouTube currently, but that will happen slowly. All right, so this is about my trainings, and now moving on to the next phase, QA session. And now most of you have already asked the questions, but if you still feel you have some of the open questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Yeah, Ram, actually, are you able to hear me?
Yes, 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 I can hear you. May I know
So
your name?
actually, Tarun here.
Yeah, Tarun.
Yeah, this session is much useful to us, and the way you have driven this is very nice. And a
Thanks,
few,
Tarun.
I had couple of questions, but that been covered in this. The only thing that I want like to ask is regarding the certification. So
Mhm.
how does it play a role? Does it mandatory to have a certification? If
No, it
so,
is
what
not
kind of
mandatory. In India, it is not mandatory, but it is good to have certification. What I would like to do is there is a detailed answer, which I would like to give you off the recording on that, Tarun. So it's better if you can connect with me offline. I'll be happy to take that question for you.
yeah, sure.
Right. All right.
Thank you.
Apart from that, any other questions, team? With respect to my trainings or the content or the clarity that you want to, gain. If there are no questions, then I think that will be all from this session today. And I really appreciate everybody. I had 20 plus people who joined this session, and I really appreciate all of you for taking out time and being a part of this session. And I'm sure this definitely added value to your understanding of your preparation, and of course it will make your journey of Scrum Master role little easier than you thought earlier. All right, so with that note, I would like to just end this session here. Thank you so much once again, and have a great weekend ahead. And tomorrow I will again publish the session details, and mostly we will be doing a mock session tomorrow in 1 hour session. All right, I'll publish the details of tomorrow's session. Thank you everyone,
Hi,
thanks
Ram.
for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Have a great day
Can
ahead.
we get the recording session of of today's?
Yes, 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 I will be publishing it on my YouTube, you will get it.
Okay, fine. Then.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day ahead. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thanks.